Angela Cavallo was a 145-pound grandmother who, well, let's just say she wasn't in the best shape. She never worked out, never went to the gym, never lifted weights, hated running. She was a pretty ordinary individual. There wasn't really anything super special about her. But somehow in 1982, she did something that you and I, ordinary individuals, would call extraordinary, incredible, unbelievable. Her son had been working underneath a white Chevy Impala when the supports gave way and the vehicle fell on top of him, knocking him unconscious and trapping him there. Angela didn't know what else to do. Her motherly instincts kicked in, and the only thing she could think of was to lift the vehicle, and so she did. Somehow, miraculously, with her bare hands, she lifted the 4,350-pound vehicle several inches and held it there for several minutes while her unconscious son was being rescued. This shouldn't humanly be possible, much less for a 145-pound grandmother who never worked out. And yet, somehow she did it. The point of this story is that humans are a lot more capable of doing a lot more things than they think they are. You have more potential than you know, and you can change more about your life than you realize. The Oxford Dictionary defines a dystopia as an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice. Last year, I took a dystopian literature class, and we read a lot of books about dystopias and different tyrannical governments. And it was a really cool class, and I learned a lot from it. But one thing was frustrating to me, and I realized it was the feeling of being trapped. These individuals in these dystopias were going around in this cycle over and over and over again and again and again, and there was no way to get out. They were trapped in the system, in the pattern. And those who tried to rise up, those who tried to break out, were crushed in the pattern that just kept going over and over and over. And it got me to thinking, what are my individual dystopias? What are personal dystopias that we constantly struggle with? The patterns that we keep getting into over and over and over again. The patterns that we think maybe we can't break out of. Some of these could be labels. We label ourselves all the time. Oh, I'm not smart. I'm not good at math. That's just not my thing. I can never run as fast as she can. We label ourselves all the time, and we don't even realize we're doing it. I call this putting ourselves in boxes. We talk about thinking outside the box. We like to come with new ideas, think outside the norm, kind of step outside of what society usually does. But I want to tell you a secret. The box doesn't exist. It's only there if we think it's there. Let me explain. We get ourselves into this victim mentality, saying, oh, something bad happened, she did it to me. I lost my job because he did this. Oh, I didn't win the race because he's so much faster than I am. Or we say, oh, it's all the politicians' fault, they do all crazy things. We put ourselves into this victim mentality, putting responsibility of our happiness and of our lives into other people's hands. And it gives them the power. Suddenly, they're the ones who can make us happy or sad. And it's not us anymore. And this puts us into a box. This labels us. Puts us into that dystopia. And suddenly, we can't control if we're happy or if we're sad, if we're in the dystopia, out of the dystopia. So how do we change this? The ancient Greeks and Romans had a philosophy called Stoicism. Stoicism teaches that no one can harm you unless you let them. Now, they may be able to hurt you physically, but true harm is only when they harm your character or your soul. And the only person that can let them harm your character or your soul, that's you. You have control over that. Stoicism says that you might not have control over your circumstances, but you do have control over how you react to them. It's not the event that is the issue. Events can't be good or bad. They're neutral. It's our interpretation of the event that puts us into that dystopia, that puts us into that victim mindset where we are no longer agents to act, but we're being acted upon. Stoicism says that, say your house burns down. You can call it a tragedy. That is certainly one interpretation, but it is not the only interpretation that you can take from that, and it is certainly not the best interpretation either. You could take it as a learning experience. Say, how can I become a better person because this happened, even though this is hard? How can I help others who are in similar circumstances? How can I rise up and be resilient? That's inner control, individual knowledge and peace, and knowing that you have control over your life and that you don't have to be a victim. There's a book called The Survivor's Club by Ben Sherwood. In this book, the author does a whole big study of different survival scenarios, such as earthquakes, or burning buildings, or airplane crashes, or shipwrecks. And he takes a look at who lives and who dies and why. And it comes to the conclusion that 9/10 of the time, it has nothing to do with luck. We call people lucky. We talk about luck all the time, but he says luck doesn't really exist 9/10 of the time. It's our mindset. It's our outlook on the world. It's our optimistic will to live, that determination to survive no matter what. It's that constantly looking for opportunities and looking, how can I make this an opportunity? Even the things that maybe you wouldn't normally see as an opportunity. Those are the people who survive. The people who just give up, lose the will to live, who decide that it's too hard to keep going, they're the ones who die. Now that's a drastic scenario, and most likely you'll never be in a survival situation like that, but you can use that in your daily life. Having an optimistic outlook, having a good attitude, seeing the world around you full of opportunities. That's what it means to be a stoic. That's what it means to have individual control. And that's what it means to get out of the dystopia. James Allen wrote the book As a Man Thinketh to show his fellow human beings that they themselves are makers of themselves. He says, a man is literally what he thinks, his whole self being the complete sum of all his thoughts and ideas. If you are what you think, who are you? What can you become? What is your potential? Let's go back to our dystopia. The key word in the definition of a dystopia is imaginary. A dystopia is an imagined state of mind in which there's great suffering or injustice. It's all in your head. There is no box. The dystopia may seem like a pattern that you're trapped in over and over and over again, but if you take a step out and you realize that you can change, you may not be able to control your circumstances, but you can control how you react to them. You can control your attitude. You can control the way you think and act and the things you choose to get up and do. Then you'll realize that there really is no box. It's only there if you think it's there. Thank you.